Hello, everyone. Gabriel Lee here with the first episode of Random Select, the podcast where anyone and everyone can talk about whatever they want to. Today's guest is DeClercqe. He's the birthday
Hello.
boy. He's the sound producer, instrumental musician, and video director, video producer. Which one would you prefer, Noah? Or are you both?
Either one.
Either one's accurate. What
Yeah.
exactly? Because I think a lot of people confuse it. What is the producer in terms of music compared to a film? Because in music, obviously, you have producers who are quote unquote making music, essentially writing it out and doing all of that. Is it the same thing with film or a little bit different?
It's kind of. I mean, it's different, definitely, because both of them are pretty much a producer. A sound producer is the one pretty much working the sound of the whole song, the recordings. Then the producer of a film is like in charge of it all. Is in charge of like overseeing the whole project, like kind of as it progresses.
Okay.
And so it's actually it's almost like a sound producer's. It's like a little less. It has a little bit less of a leadership position than like a film producer, because as a sound producer, you're mainly just in charge of the sound of the recording as a whole, which
Okay.
is a really important job. But you don't. But you're not, making as much money as you would make as a producer or
Uh,
something of a
like a
TV show or.
and like I'm sort of getting the sense with what you're saying is that a sound producer in general has less like of a creative control compared
Um,
to the musicians as how like a film producer does when he's working with those people. He has a little bit more.
well, the a film producer kind of like oversees the whole project, and then a sound producer, um, you kind of, I guess, you have the artist who in a recording studio, you have the artist who's being recorded, and then a producer is the one who's recording the artist, and then puts together the whole production, mixes and masters the song. So the producer has like the creative control over all of like the technical aspects of the recording. Um, and usually that's what, you usually have like an artist will have a producer. But like nowadays with EDM producers, that's more of like a do-it-yourself kind of thing.
So
Um,
they're more or less just playing two roles, and because of like the materials or tools that they're using to make it, they go more by the producer um, title for the
uh,
EDM artist.
uh, the music producer isn't he isn't really in charge of like the whole album as a whole. It's more like the record label is in charge.
Okay.
Like and you got the big guys in the record label, like in charge. But the sound producer is usually like with Taylor Swift, or like or maybe Jay-Z or something. He's gonna record a new rap album. He like hires a producer like Kanye or something like that. He hires like a producer, um, and so like a film producer is different, because the film producer is the one who put together the whole project,
Yeah, like brought together the
and
team of people
and uh, and they both produce, like they both um, produce the sound,
and like create the
or the
product.
or the whole project. But um, it's just kind of different as far as the amount of control. like a sound producer is hired by the artist, and then the film producer is the one who pretty much like started the whole thing.
And is doing the hiring.
The,
Okay. Um, on that note, like comparing them, because you work in so many different mediums and modes, and this is something that really interests me, is like the blending of forms of art and mediums into sort of transcendental projects that sort of blur the barrier between what exactly they are in terms of work. But beyond that, even just having different mediums of art inspire an artwork that you're working on, like say those people who have written books based on the painting that they've seen and things like that. Um, what is your experience with that like occurring in your work, or what are your thoughts on that and why it happens and things like that?
what was the question exactly?
Like just describe your experience with being influenced cross medium, like how maybe your music has influenced how you film, or how you film has influenced how you make music.
Oh yeah. Like I started with as a kid. Um, I started with drawing,
All
and
right.
so I grew up in a in like I was born in here in San Diego where I am right now, but I we moved to Monterey, and I remember seeing my mom painting as a kid, so I kind of picked up on that, and I did some really crappy kid paintings, but at the same time they were really weird because they were like the concept behind them was like ghosts and stuff, and like I created this like in my head, like, and I put it on the canvas. I like painted it really crappily, but it was like ghosts falling into some kind of trap or something. If who knows if it meant anything at the time.
Yeah, what I was gonna ask is why ghosts? Like, did you have a experience where ghosts were present, or just like some weird supernatural things were going on in Monterey?
Uh, I don't know. Monterey was a weird place. I mean, I had like turkeys all over the place.
Like the
Um,
big wild turkeys, or like,
yeah, like
okay.
wild turkeys running all over the neighborhood, and it was in base housing, on the Navy base.
So on
But
base they had a bunch of fucking turkeys?
yeah,
Okay.
and that was actually kind of. I heard like apparently it was kind of sort of a bad neighborhood. Like maybe there was kind of like there was some shootings somewhere around there, but I don't. I'm pretty sure that something like that happened. But but yeah, I was painting as a kid, and then from there I like at a certain point I was being told that it wasn't profitable. So
By
it was in a like just by different people,
okay.
like just different people from the school, different
At like what age would you say that it was that you started to get told that it wasn't profitable? Because I know, um, like a lot of people don't necessarily encounter that they're being told not to do art until middle school, but then at the same time, I know that even in elementary school, people are like, "Well, it's a good thing you don't want to draw."
Yeah. I actually see. I was told by my dad in third grade. That was the first time that I was told that art wasn't profitable, and from there, I just had other people tell me, like people at school, like later on, um, just a lot of people will tell you that, of course, but
Yeah,
uh,
and not even just with like, or I guess you pretty much said it just by saying art. I mean, they'll say pretty much any form of art or something that seems artistic in any
yeah,
way isn't necessarily a profitable thing, which is kind of weird considering just how many of the degrees or like businesses that you get into require like some form of artistry. Even being a medical doctor, I mean, requires a little bit of intuitiveness to like diagnose and things of that nature or to prescribe medication. While it
Yeah,
is a very scientific and rigorous like tool set that you're bringing from, it does require those same skills that you do with art. There's just that perceptibility, that intuition, that ability to like reason and synthesize information.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, the meaning of art is really basic, and it's just basically to put together. It's just to put together things. And so that's why I kind of just uh, I'll just call myself an artist because I kind of, like you said, I cross between mediums and stuff, and I can't really, I don't, I mean, it's mainly music and film, but like I never made up my mind between the two, so I just kind of decided I want to pursue both somehow.
Yeah. Is it just that you have such like a strong affinity and love for those mediums to be working in, or is it, well, I guess that probably could be the only real explanation for it, but what is it about those two, I guess, that just like resonates with you? You can say it like separately, which of each resonates with you, or where it like sort of cross resonates with you. But yeah, what is it about those two that you really enjoy doing?
Um, the I it kind of like so from when I was like painting and drawing and stuff, I was told that I started at a certain age. It was like around 8. I actually got on a computer. It was like a Mac, and I started working on iMovie, and I was just messing around with a lot of random clips, and I just kind of started throwing together stuff
Yeah.
on a software. It was like just the basic iMac software, video editing software, and I showed it to like a just a group of people at like some Christmas party, family Christmas party.
Okay.
They were, they were all drunk, and they're like, "Yeah, no, you're gonna be a big film star."
with
No,
with just these random clips, were they even moving? Because I know when I like first got into the idea of maybe that I wanted to like videotape things and I wanted to film things, I was just taking clip art and like putting it on top of each other and just having frames and doing a little flip book. Was it even moving clips
yeah,
that they were seeing, or were they just that?
yeah.
Uh,
I don't know. They were a bunch of random ass clips. They were like, I actually I started with like they were like family kind of videos or something.
okay, like of
They
your
were
family
videos
or other
like
people's families?
yeah, like family videos of like Halloween and stuff.
Okay.
And and I was just kind of randomly putting them together. And then at some point, like I decided I wanted to extend it, so I started filming myself.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was finished, and I kind of just threw it together really randomly on iMovie, and showed it to a group of drunk people at like a family Christmas party. And that's when I kind of continued on with that. With film was when I had a lot of like validation from a bunch of drunk people at a party.
Yeah. Do
I
you
just kind of believed them. I was like, yeah, I'm awesome.
do you think if maybe you had intuitively or just like your initial skill level in drawing had been a little bit higher, that it could have gone that way and you would have been really validated in drawing, or do you think that it was just like a really odd circumstance at all that you got that validation in terms of like film?
It was just kind of random out of nowhere, and I thought it was at that point. I thought it was cooler to be a filmmaker because I was being told that that would make more money at the
Okay.
time. It was like yeah, and I mean I mean definitely depends, but but that's just kind of I thought it was cooler at that point, and
Yeah.
I had a lot of validation from a bunch of drunk people, you know, that who really liked Michael Bay movies and stuff. You know, and
Wha- Was the island out at that point, or when we say Michael Bay movies, are we talking about like The Rock and stuff like
I
that?
don't know, just random ass stuff, just stupid like movies.
Yeah, like really straightforward,
Yeah,
explosive. Okay, yeah. And I mean, I think that for a lot of people, that's why film in their mind stands out as something that's more profitable. And I guess there is sort of well, okay, let me just
yeah, I agree.
restart with what I was going with. Because so many people who just go and see those AAA films or whatever, they get the false idea that it's like hugely more successful than it is in terms of the money that makes. And it is really like immensely, unimaginably large amounts of money that are being made. But then you have to think about the fact that a piece of art is only getting sold like one time, or in general, when it is like a really unique piece of art, it's getting sold one time, Mona Lisa, things like that. And for just insane amounts of money in of itself. And then you can sell prints
Yeah,
and stuff like that on top of that. And I know Mona Lisa is a bad example because it's someone that's way passed away that did that one, but that still occurs within modern society. And then it's not even like there isn't a lower level of art where you do like um, icons and symbols and billboards and things like that, like there is with film. You do advertisements or little things and sort of the business sector of it. So I think all art on some level is pretty equally profitable. I'm sure films, just with
yeah,
the amount that is allowed to be distributed and the amount of times that it's resold, um, is probably more profitable at the very top. But on the middle levels, it obviously is just the same as any art. You can be a starving artist regardless of if you're making a game
yeah. It
or a
depends on what
video.
kind of artist you are. If you're like a commercial artist and you're able to sell yourself, then you might, you might be fine. You might be well off. But if you're like if you're like a British guy, starving and sitting in the corner trying to make um, beautiful art, and you don't have any sales experience, you might not, it might be difficult.
Yeah, and then not say you came into like your artistic talents outside of a formal institution, like outside of school, outside of uh, just any environment where you're around a lot of people who know people and things like that. Just not having the right connections, even if you necessarily have uh, some personality that you could put forward, if you don't know who you need to be talking to and you're
Yeah,
just very unaware of how the industry works, in that regard, you could be pushing this like amazing product and just not be able to put it out as broadly as you could if you had distribution networks and things like that.
yeah. And a lot of people give up, at a certain point. Persistency is usually the key
Yeah,
in the
persistency
industry.
definitely helps. And I think persistency is such like a key to every point and aspect of being an artist, not just at the breaking into the industry point, but just to continue honing that skill and all of those things. That I think some people get disillusioned because they've made this art that they resonate really with because it really is telling their story and things like that. And it may have taken them a couple of years to develop the skills to get to that point. But then once it becomes something that's outside of them that they're having to be persistent with, they get a little bit less persistent. And then people who are like, I want to get into art, tend to be a little unpersistent with really engaging with themselves internally and with the skill set that they have to develop to put out the art themselves. So they don't even get past that point. But I mean, at any point for anyone in life, like persistency is a really big issue because you're going to be faced with challenges and
Yeah,
stuff like that. And overcoming them a lot of the time takes chipping away and coming back to yourself and reevaluating what you're doing and what is not working and what it seems to be working, and just continuously like grinding through that. And I understand from my own experience and from seeing people that some things you just can't be persistent about because it's so like foreign to you, or you feel like you can't be persistent about it because it's so foreign to you and it's so new to you, or it's so challenging in a way that you haven't been challenged. But I think people understanding just how much effort really you're already putting into life, just living, if you put that same effort into things that you enjoy or you want to strive for, then look, and then you look from at it from that perspective, um, the persistency thing I think would be less of a challenge. But it definitely is a challenge
Yeah.
because I mean you're being uh, assaulted with all kinds of challenges, not even just the basic of I can't get into the industry. It's like, do I want to go to the bar with my friends tonight? And then you have a hangover the next
Yeah.
morning, and then you've got a dead day, and then you're back at your regular work, and you come home and you're tired. Or if you're past that stage and you're
Yeah.
like,
Time management.
yeah, or if you're
Definitely.
past that stage and you're running like small, low galleries or whatever, but you're not really breaking even, or you're not breaking above even, you got to understand that any business like is going to require a loss, and you showing up to those galleries could help you a lot more in the long run. Um, Obviously, I'm kind of talking out my ass on that one because I'm sure that some point you realize, hey, it's not going to work this way. But for someone to get to that point and then be like, I'm going to put down this thing that I've like grown and has grown with me for so long, because where it's gotten to in the current form that I'm doing it isn't going any further, instead of stepping back and gathering your artistic strength, I guess. I don't know what a good word for it would be. I'm sure there's like some Sonder-esque word. But just reevaluating how you're doing the art and just trying to express it in a different way, or pushing it in a different market than you've previously been pushing it. I think, yeah, the persistency thing is a huge, huge like aspect in
Yeah.
life in general. And I think a lot of people don't
Definitely.
realize when they go and they're like, I'm going to be an art major or I'm going to be an artist, that it's going to be more than just having the skill set. It's going to take a lot of patience and a lot of continued effort at it.
Some people, I mean, they go to school and they take the classes, but like they some of those people aren't artists. Like
Yeah.
they go into art, but because I know from because my mom, like, she's an art teacher, but I mean, I don't really see her whipping out any paintings or anything, which is if she listens to this, she would be like, no. I was like, ah, no.
Well,
But
she,
uh, it's funny, but yeah, I mean, it's, some people are can teach it, but they don't do it. I mean,
yeah.
they classes.
And really, when you're teaching art, you're not teaching someone how to be an artist. Would you agree to that? You're kind
You're
of,
just teaching technique.
yeah, you're just teaching techniques and showing techniques, and you're giving them an environment where they can have peers to communicate with and who may be on a wavelength similar to theirs and things like that. But you can't teach anyone to be an artist, because, or an artist in the most like artistic sense of creating something from yourself or from what you've experienced or just from the world around you, and having it be this representation of that concept or just the feeling or whatever you want to do with your art, because that's entirely like an internal going to the external factor. There is no way to teach someone how to be themselves and how to express themselves in that way, I don't think. I mean, there might be, because I mean, you have people that inspire you. Would you consider someone inspiring you moving you towards an artist? I just want to ask that because now I'm stuck on that idea.
What I consider,
Like, say, um, Cobb and how he
yeah,
talked about things and did things and showed a
Mr.
way
Cobb,
of,
the English teacher.
yeah, Mr. Cobb, the English teacher from our high school. He was a really progressive guy, was really smart, was really serious about students putting in actual effort, not necessarily succeeding with the effort, but that they were putting in a real heartfelt effort and trying to engage in the actual act of learning and being able to learn more. Um, and I know he pretty much had an influence on any of the students that weren't like this dude's just a total asshole. And I mean, he kind of was an asshole,
Yeah.
but it still is something like that. So I guess what I'm saying is like when you read of someone writing or something like that, and they sort of inspire you of a way of looking at the world that leads you on a path towards um, you creating a new piece of art.
Yeah, anything, yeah, anything in your external environment influences your art. It just kind of finds its way in there,
Yeah,
um, into your subconscious mind or wherever, and it just kind of flows out. Because I'll listen to a band, and then I'll find it kind of like the sound kind of leaks into what I'm making a little bit,
yeah,
like what I've been listening to recently. Um, Maybe if I'm reading a book, those ideas might transpire into lyrics, or somehow, it all does find a way, um, if it's important enough.
yeah. So I don't know if you're aware, but I don't know whether or not do when you go into college for art, do they teach humanities and things of that nature, or is getting an art degree solely refining technique? Or if you don't know, that's fine. But
I mean, I went to I went to San Diego City College last semester, and I took some music production classes. Um, yeah, art school. I mean, I'm pretty sure at arts. I don't know, really, because I haven't been to art school, but I think they have like humanities classes and stuff that you,
okay,
like, general ed that you take
yeah,
at art schools.
because I feel like that definitely is at some level the most important part of it, and like if you have a really good art teacher, those are going to be really important parts. But the techniques necessarily aren't that important because at some point you kind of realize that people use just so many varying techniques
Yeah,
that it's more about how you express it with the techniques that you're using. And learning those techniques really is just teaching you how to teach other people to teach those techniques, I feel.
yeah.
Um,
You can only use a technique as a basis if you're trying to be an artist.
yeah,
Um, Other than that, I mean, like, you'll just become an art teacher if you don't really want to become an artist. If you're studying art,
yeah,
uh, which is not. I mean, it's not a bad job. Um, but it's I wouldn't want to become an art teacher. I wouldn't want to. I see myself teaching along the way, but being in a classroom, I always was averse to that, just because my mom was a teacher, and so I think that was honestly the only reason, just because my mom was an art teacher,
yeah,
just a teacher in general, and I was like, I want to do something different. Yeah,
yeah. No, I mean, I feel like a lot of people definitely experience that. I mean, there are people that would love to do the same job at the same company that their parents did, like those people that go into insurance after their fathers and things like that. Um, but I think most people from their childhood have already started to develop like a different dream or true will for themselves of a thing that they really want to do, or like a way
Yeah.
of doing things that they really want to do, because not necessarily a job doesn't really necessarily define you so much, as long as you're given the freedom to do it in your way. Like a lot of people could find just as much fulfillment in, say, a marketing job if they decided to market like environmental stuff and things like that, if that's what they're into, or if they want to make the porn industry like turn over on its head, they could do that if they wanted to. Like, I mean, it does, it is a lot more how you do it than what the job is. But I think when it's a career that's exactly what your parents had, a lot of people are kind of like, I don't know about that. I know what my parents were like.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's people that are kind of they're brought up, you know, either you're brought up to just kind of like settle for something, just kind of go into
To get like the paycheck and the house
yeah,
and all
just
that.
you know, just to be comfortable, and that's really you know, that's really understandable.
Yeah,
The just you just want to be comfortable. You don't want to be like constantly nabbed at by life and like, oh shit, I got this goal I have to attend to every single fucking day.
yeah,
Uh,
and
God
even
damn it.
I think a lot of people, just because of things like the minimum wage and things like of that nature, find it hard to even have time to be comfortable. For like a vast majority of the country is on a struggle like on a daily basis, and people that have parents that care and stuff like that, they see it and they're like, you don't want to be like, or we don't want you to be like those people. We want you to be able to sit and take a breather. But the fact of the matter is, people who make $20 an hour still work 50 hours a week and things of that nature. Like, they are putting in a lot of work, and settling for something that you don't want to do is going to make even that comfortability really unbearable. And you're going to wonder like why you're
Yeah.
disappointed or why you're sad and things like that. And I think I was talking to my brother just yesterday, and he was telling me all these things he was going to buy. And
Talking
I,
about Mr. Dillon.
yeah, Mr. Dillon. I'm talking about Mr. Dillon. And he was like, I'm going to get a iPhone, I think, and I'm going to get this touchscreen laptop that you can separate the screen from the computer. And I was like, Dylan, don't you want a computer that does recording? And he's like, yeah, I'll get that too. And I was like, why don't you just get what you need and not that? And he's like,
Yeah.
well, Cole Battle has one. He's a friend of ours, and Dylan's been hanging out with him a little bit. Um, and so I like thought about it. I'm like, people, because I have an understanding that people are materialistic and stuff like that, but never
Yeah.
having really been in a position where I'm just like completely going uh, capitalistic with my money and spending it as fast as I get it. There are a lot of people that will get just a new thing on Amazon Prime, get that free 2 day shipping, have a new tool, knickknack, toy in 2 days, look at it once and put it aside and want to order something else. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that like we've been so conditioned in this country and in the industrial post-industrial age, in the leading into the information age, and now especially in the information age, we just want, or there are a lot of people that just want things because they've seen other people have those things, or they've seen the thing and they like instinct are like, well, I don't know what else to do with my time, I'm gonna get this and see how that
Yeah. It's
goes.
fill in the hole, fill in the empty hole.
Yeah, and
If you don't know
and,
what else to do, so
and there's nothing wrong with buying things, because there's plenty of hobbies and stuff that require buying things, and I completely support that.
yeah.
I understand you putting money at something that you
Use it as a
enjoy.
tool, you know.
Yeah, if you are putting money towards something that you are actively engaging in and is actively challenging you or making you grow in some way, is completely understandable. And if you're putting money towards being alive and surviving, and having a little bit more stability, because I mean, honestly, owning a house compared to renting is a little bit more stability. Uh, a lot of people don't want to be tied down like that, and so there's that whole argument. But um, just actually engaging in life with your money and stuff probably would make a huge difference. A lot of people wonder why policies aren't getting changed, but they're spending money on the things that like are actively supporting the agendas that they don't want to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just crazy because that materialistic whole drive, I think, really fucked it up. And uh, because the people that are above us in terms of age also came from that culture, they like have questions about it. Like, why do we need all this stuff? But at the same time, they're like, well, if it's right because it's the culture that we live in and it's the thing that we're supposed to do, I better teach my kid the best way to do it, which is how I'm bringing it full circle back to parents encouraging kids to settle.
Yeah. Yeah, that went all the way around and back.
Yeah, no,
I like that.
I was gonna finish that, and I was like, I know that there was a reason I was talking about this, and I was
Yeah.
like, do not fuck it up and forget why you even started on it. And then I was like, oh yeah, the parents in the settlement. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
finally.
parents want you to, they want you to be like, not saying any of the jobs I'm about to list off are bad, not at all. Um, but they're jobs that your parents probably don't even know anything about and are just recommending to you based on nothing. Like people that recommend kids to be accountants and stuff, when we now have computers that run the programs that would do the accounting and things like that nature.
Yeah.
Um, it a lot of people are being pushed towards jobs that won't even exist at some point, and the jobs that will still exist are the ones that require the intuitiveness and the thinking, the people that are like actually making sales, the people that are making art, the people that are healing bodies, they're creating technology that hopefully will bring us more in balance with the world and not further from it, things of that nature.
Who knows?
Um, Speaking of technology, just being in balance with the nature, the Google, I don't know if you've seen this, the Google autopilot car. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because it happened in California. So you should know, you should be on the watch out for this. The Google car cut off a rival um, automated car and like almost caused a
I've
wreck.
heard about that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was funny. I
I
was
think
like, did it do it because it was another kind of car? Like, are they gonna do that when we get them? Are we gonna get in the car and they're gonna like race each other if they're different brands, or is it just the
uh,
weird like glitch in the matrix system?
yeah, it's definitely when are they, I mean, when are they planning on releasing those? Do you know
Uh,
what's
I
up with that? What's
I think they have like at least 2 more years of testing.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're not going to get it for a while. And the other thing I wonder is once they come out, and this is going to be a really good way to make everyone materialistic, is if we have
Yeah.
to then switch to those cars within like a set amount of time. Like but you being forced to buy something that is materialistic, especially if there isn't an alternative like state provided transportation. You shouldn't have to give up the technology that you engaged in for hundreds of years because, or not hundreds of years,
What's
what the
up?
fuck. But to give up the cars,
Oh, the
bec-
mic cut out for a second or something.
it did.
Yeah.
Okay, well we'll just drop that like segment, and I'm just gonna start off where I was saying hundreds of years, not hundreds of years, but
Well, you could probably just keep all the mistakes in. just,
Yeah,
just like
I,
freaking
I mean,
like perfect.
we're pretty far into it. So if they
Yeah.
even make it this far, props to you for still listening to hear us thanking you for listening to the errors. But yeah, the like, are we gonna have to get rid of our cars? I mean, at some point, obviously, everyone's gonna have to get rid of their cars. But are we gonna have to get rid of the cars within like 5 years of them coming out, or like 25 years of them coming out? All that's gonna be
Uh,
weird.
yeah. Well, I mean, once they come out, they're gonna be really, really fucking expensive. Of course, like the like not the Google Watch. I was talking about the Apple Watch or
Oh
whatever.
my God, the fucking Apple Watch is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So it's gonna take a while for it to like become a consumer thing. It seems like it's gonna take a while for the public to to get their hands on it. It's gonna be more for
Yeah,
the richer folks when it comes out. Like
yeah.
just like the Apple Watch.
And
I actually applied for Apple recently. That was interesting.
you applied for Apple as a position?
Yeah, like I went to an Apple hiring event and it was um it was at like some hotel. It was in a conference room and
Okay.
it was like the social event where they kind of like judge from there if you would be hired just by how like social you were. And they definitely like they didn't accept me.
Okay.
um, like I don't know, it was just kind of it was really weird. It was they had some activities. They had like an activity where we had to like talk to the person next to us, and we had to tell each other about like three different things uh, about us or whatever. And the last one was like, what's your favorite Apple product or whatever. And the other two were like two other kind of like the first one was what jobs have you worked at. The second one was something, but then we had to get up and we had to kind of recite what the other told us, and like whatever he told me, I just completely fucking forgot.
Oh, I
So
see.
I got up and I was just like I could only list off basically like he could list off about maybe 10 things. I only listed off about like three or four, like versus what he said. And so like I felt like a doofus, and then there was an activity where we had to pass around an iPad, and there were questions on the iPad, and they were like asking, if you were in a situation where where you're with an employee who
Oh,
had
and someone
sex with
stole
another
something. Okay.
employee in the bathroom.
Wait, really? They had questions like that?
No. It was more. It was like I was just kind of like given a silly example of just like
Okay. Because for a
personal.
second I thought they were really like gonna have questions about what would you do in the case of fraternization in
Yeah,
the company. Because I mean, it's Apple. They could do whatever the fuck they want to you
yeah.
about that. But okay, so it's like the typical job. Like, what if
It's
someone?
just like if it was asking like past tense what like about us. It asked about a specific situation in the past where if you were having trouble with an employee, like how did you respond? And of course, why would why would you tell them, oh, well, I totally fucking hated that guy and I punched him in the face? Why would they like? It's like they almost
The
like
yeah.
you can't be if you have to tell them like the best thing.
Yeah,
Um,
there's someone that we mutually know. I think you know. But he answers the questions honestly when it's like, do you think that employees steal from their employers? He puts most definitely and things like that. And he
yeah,
he has a lot of trouble getting jobs because of that.
yeah, you can't be honest. You gotta
Yeah, I mean,
lie or
which
die.
is bizarre because they know. Like they know that it occurs because that's why they're asking.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the silly part about it is the fact that they're even asking.
Yeah.
Those kind of questions where, why would you be honest? But I guess maybe they're just like weeding out those specific people who are honest.
Or even
Because
those
it's
people.
like, why would you be honest?
Yeah.
Like, why
Yeah.
would you? So
Yeah.
are you going to tell, the customers that the product is a bad product? Uh, you know?
And even like just yeah, at a certain point, it would seem because some of the questions are like so ridiculously naive that I feel like I have to agree with you that it is just to prevent people who are just going to say whatever
Yeah.
they feel is correct to people. Because I mean, people who are that like straightforward, honest not necessarily are honest about things that are true. They can also tend to be pretty opinionated about things, and
Yeah.
someone that's really willing to just say whatever is on their mind isn't someone that could engage in a customer service situation or a situation where you have a person that is definitely supposed to be that you're like overarching superior very well, which is why I wonder how like the military deals with those kind of people. Like, do they secretly have that questionnaire? And if you answer yes on that, you can't be in the military.
Yeah, well, yeah, they definitely do have those kind of questionnaires in the military too. Um, like that, why would you be honest about that?
Yeah,
Uh, like, I don't know, like, and there's people that lie about like their injuries and stuff that they've had in the past, and they get in the military and they're not supposed to.
I see.
Like
Yeah,
that they should have definitely told them, but if they didn't, they wouldn't have been able to get in.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, questionnaires in general, I think are just weird. I think that like concept of a questionnaire being like a integral part of the application process is a little strange because I mean the people that answer those questionnaires are turned away based on the questionnaire eventually get a job somewhere else. I mean there are some people that don't, but the whole questionnaire process is bizarre. Other
yeah,
some companies weigh it way more heavily than others.
it's definitely not for the obvious reason, which the obvious reason that you would think it would be like, oh well, they want your honest opinion.
Yeah,
But there's something more to that.
yeah.
Like I
There's
was saying, there's another motive, ulterior motive to trying to get an answer. They want to see how you answer or something, or they want to see, you know, if like I said, like they want to see if you're the kind of person that's going to tell their employees that the product is a bad product
yeah. So
just because of how honest you are or something.
so after the iPad questionnaire, was it over, or or there's more going on after that that you had to engage in?
After the iPad and questionnaire was finally done, and I knew I like the guy. I could tell he seemed like he had been in like an Apple commercial before. Honestly, like he seemed like the kind of guy who would have been in like an Apple commercial.
Like
But
the kind where they're the silhouettes in the iPod, or the one where it's like Steve Jobs-esque dude walking out
it's
in
like
front of the projector.
maybe like a commercial for the store,
Okay.
and like it's showing the employees, and it's you got the manager guy, and it shows him, and he's like, I'm I'm Bob Evans. And he was kind of like I could tell he didn't like me. Um,
Yeah.
I like for some reason it was just some weird reason. It's that kind of happens sometimes. It's just like somebody you don't really know why the hell this person doesn't like you, but
Yeah. Why
just like
this
something that you know
occurs.
yeah, I don't know, you just can't tell.
Yeah, that, that
But
that that is sort of a weird thing. Like when someone rubs you the wrong way and you can't really put your finger on it, like you even sometimes can't put your finger on it like that
Yeah.
phrase alone explains it, but there's no real explanation, I guess, for why. I mean, I guess we could get into like pheromones and things like that, but that doesn't really make sense considering how many people we encounter on a daily basis, and we're not just like in a fight or flight mode when we were walking past people that's pheromones or whatever hit us the wrong way. So yeah, no, the whole thing where because it's like if you think about people who like really didn't like George Bush before he done it, not done or not done anything, and they're like, I don't like his stupid face. Like there's people whose faces aren't nearly as stupid as George Bush's, but you look at them and you're like, that's a dumb motherfucker. I don't like. I'm like, why?
I don't know. It's a lot of just opinion. I don't know. Just from like past experiences, I guess. The milkman who was screwing your mom, he looks like the person, who maybe the milkman that was screwing his mom looked like me or something.
Yeah, that that
Yeah.
that's a good joke and a good point because it reminded me of something. That because we can only like really develop a relationship with 150 people, like a really firm, we know their last name, their first name, some basic like 4 or 5 personality traits. When we meet people who replace someone that we originally had like a firm understanding of who they were, um, we sort of extrapolate or place over the traits of the person that we're forgetting with them or traits of people that we are still really in contact with. And so we can sometimes
Yeah.
meet people and we like think of them really as like this cool person. They remind me of such and such, or
Yeah.
they just this particular thing that you know someone that you used to know did, they do also, and it's cool. But then as you develop like a stronger relationship, it seems like they are like more people that you know until they become like so many people that you know that they're that
Yeah.
one person that you know. But at the same time, all of those traits still were people's prior to that you've met, and it's just because that's how we like bond with people. So like the like shitty gym coach or whatever that you have in middle school that was a dick, when you meet other dicks in your life, that sort of solidifies that archetype of what you think a dick is that you developed in middle school.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Who knows like what he was thinking of me. I was like talking about like just being, I don't know, like working with Final Cut Pro and stuff. Maybe he thought like maybe he was just like looking at me like thinking this guy's a poser or something, he was thinking
Yeah,
he was just looking at me and kind of just like probably thinking I was a poser or something just because of how much experience he's had, you know.
yeah.
And he was actually like saying that in the introduction of all those employees or whatever that they had standing up in the front, he was apparently going to be a judge at some Olympic event or something.
Like a
Or swimming.
legit Olympic event, like the
Yeah, I think
televised?
so. Yeah, yeah.
Weird.
Like he was working to be a judge at like the swimming Olympics.
That's bizarre. What? I guess that's what he's into, maybe
Yeah,
athletes and stuff. But that's strange to like think that someone who did something for Apple is the same person that does the Olympic judging.
yeah. Well, there was a lot of different like people there that kind of had like different that owned businesses but also worked for Apple. Like so it was kind of interesting. It was kind of like a cult,
Yeah, see, that's what I was
like a
gonna
club.
say to you when we got off the Apple topic is I was gonna be like, well, Apple is actually like the Illuminati. So
Yeah. Well,
you
that's what it seemed like. It seemed like they had this weird uh cultish thing about them. Like they seem so like Apple was a religion
do
is how
you
they
do you
treat.
think do you think it's because, and you said like Apple's a religion, it's because that like um that just like ideology that Apple products are so much superior? Do you think that like is what makes it a cultish thing, or do you think it's because of maybe how that Steve Jobs work environment it was, where it was just a
Probably both of those.
yeah,
Like how it just kind of it started off from the bottom with Steve Jobs and then became this really big, successful, different thing. And like it just kind of it has like a message to it, you know, like a message of striving and success.
yeah, because I from encounters with people that like are Google employees and from hearing them talk on like boards and things of that nature, they don't so much exude that, and I think that's because of how individualistic um Google's work ethic ideas are. But I feel like Apple's not like that at all. I think Apple's very centrally driven. You are all working towards more or less the same goal together in a really collaborative effort. And I think that's what makes them so powerful as a company. But I think that, like, at any time it occurs, leads to that, like, cultish mentality, especially when
Yeah,
the public has this conception that your products are inherently better because of the brand that has this really basic, clean symbol that's
yeah, it's just really
visualized with white. Yeah, like all of it
done.
is.
It's really sleek. The whole like Apple is a really just like you were saying, like it's a really simple, sleek product that like everybody can understand.
Yeah,
Like you don't have to put it together. It's just all there. It's just like one wop, you know, there's no separate monitor or anything. It's just like all everything's there.
yeah,
And they made it like with iMovie and every like the whole iLife thing that contains iMovie and all that. Like they, you know, it's I was told when I started working with iMac computers as a kid, I was being told that it was like the artist's computer. So I think that's been one perception of it as well, is that it's like a kind of an artist's computer where you kind of have the freedom. You don't have to think about all the technical aspects, you know, as far as it's just all there. I guess maybe it was just because of how simple of a product it was, or something.
yeah. When you were talking about that whole simplicity and sleekness, and like elaborating on that, for whatever reason, in my mind just popped like the image of a cross, and I'm like, well, this is like the perfect example of uh, how, because Western religions that were even like Judaism, which has sort of been converted post like the Roman world, when they really sought out to commercialize them as concepts, um, like past the basic like religious esoteric teachings or whatever, and made it into a product or an ideology that they were going to uh, spread out through the world, specifically with the Romans. Um, they brought in all of that like really simple symbology that anyone could make, like any woodworker, any metal worker, anyone could have made, so that that image forever was associated with something that was way bigger and way more complicated than that little thing. And I think that's like a
Yeah,
really good analogy, because iPhone's kind of a small little sleek thing, but it's got a lot of power and like
yeah,
uh
that's interesting how you bring that up. Yeah, how yeah, and kind of connecting with how we were talking about how Apple is sort of a cult. Like in a you know Windows, like so Apple was really big, and now Windows is also seems like they're also trying to create that sleekness about them too,
Yeah,
just because of competition, you know.
the new Windows icon with the rounded squares and it's the offset E, I think, like the Enron E type looking thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
all of that whole look is definitely trying to capture the essence of that like simplicity. And they now have like an app store for Windows computers. It's not like just a software store. They specifically call it like apps, and, which I mean is applications when it's always been used, but for whatever reason, apps an application to someone connects way more than software it does. Probably that A
yeah,
sound. But yeah, no, I mean, Microsoft definitely is trying to capture that like sleekness, and a lot of businesses really are aiming for that. That's what they want. They want to capture that just simplistic, clean design because then when you see anything that even remotely is like that, you associate that with that. Like when people see apples, I think they probably, for a split second in their brain, that neuron fires and is like iPod.
yeah. And people say that like I don't know if this is going off, but people say that art doesn't like some people will say that art doesn't really affect like history that much, or it doesn't affect the progression of the world, but like the simplistic art that was coming out, where it's like the kind of art where people were just putting like dots in the center of a canvas or whatever,
Yeah,
like that really affected like business and like how business started going about
yeah, because
commercializing themselves, and
I,
it became less of like this vintage like italic kind of look, you know, or whatever, and like more of this really simple, like just really straightforward, modernistic kind of thing
yeah,
because of art.
I was gonna say that you pointing that out definitely like makes me think about the fact that like what symbolizes a business or a brand has moved really far away, not really far away from typography, but it's a lot further from typography than it's ever been. It's a lot more about that icon, that logo, that simple picture,
Yeah,
that almost more than the name of the company is what you associate with it. Like the Nike swoosh to me says Nike way more than Nike does at this point because I've seen it a billion times. The Adidas like little triangle thing, all of that. Because all of those brands used to have like a very thought out typeset that they only used. And I mean, they still use it, but we don't associate that typeset so much anymore with the company as we do the logo.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's definitely weird, and I'm looking at my Mac and I'm seeing a bunch of I'm
Little
looking at a
things.
bunch of logos.
Yeah.
Um,
No, like on your desktop, it's just logos. Well, I guess Macs don't have or do they have the desktop now? Like in the traditional sense of a bunch of icons just everywhere, or is it still the
yeah.
bar?
Well, I mean, there, like you can have it on the desktop and the bar.
Okay.
Like it's interchangeable, or you can have it on both. But it looks nicer if you just have it all on the bar or whatever.
Yeah, the bar definitely is nicer.
Yeah, yeah, it looks better.
Yeah, but
Um, yeah, I've definitely been working with the Mac for a while, and I feel like it would definitely be a weird transition to go over to Windows. But Macs seem to be they seem to be designing them to be really short lived, like designing them to have like short lifespans
yeah,
as computers, and that's kind of one thing that really bothers me about the company is that like the iPhones are have short lifespans, and they like I'm pretty sure they program them to have short lifespans.
yeah. I mean, they get rid of. They changed the charger set up so that if you break your charger 2 or 3 years down the road, you might not find another wire that has that
Yeah.
headpiece that you need and things like that. They like definitely, and since they trademark all of that, it's hard to get like third market or third party items like that on the market. So yeah, they definitely are kind of shady in that aspect, and um, it's just because they got to make sure that they stay profitable. Because if they design that really strong uh,
Yeah.
product, which because their products are still strong even with the uh, expected I can't think of the word, but they're no longer up to date. Basically, the pre-plan no longer up to date. Uh, they are able to sell it again with the slightly more modifications that they may have even had in their mind at the time when they originally released
Yeah.
it. Like the fact that the like upper end smartphones just now have water resistance is kind of crazy considering they've had water resistance since the beginning of smartphones coming out. Like
They're
they,
giving a little bit of themselves at once with
yeah,
iPhone. They're just kind of like giving a little bit each phone, kind of like slowly updating them,
yeah,
which is another, which, that's annoying, considering, like, the iPhones have short lifespans, and then they keep only adding like a little bit each iPhone, but you have to pay like so much money for each iPhone. So I mean, they definitely designed it well to where it was definitely a successful company.
yeah,
They really trick people's minds.
yeah,
Um, and even if like you're trying to keep a computer, like a Mac computer, the same one for 5 years, you have to maintain the RAM and stuff, and they're having the Apple stores expand all over the place. So you have your local Mac store that you go to, and you give them some money to fix up the Mac or whatever,
yeah.
and they just, yeah, I mean, they definitely made it to where they would have a customer base, even though like they're such expensive products.
Yeah. And I think that honestly is one of the ways that like the capitalistic idea of if we're competing for the most profits, we're going to put out the best product we can sort of fails within the information age is because when they don't put out the like absolute top tier phone that they could at the time and then slowly work towards that phone over years with marginal updates, you're preventing people who work with the or the iPad or iPhone operating system, I should say, um, exclusively for their like software stuff from developing really great innovative software with the new hardware capabilities and things like that. Like you're limiting the amount of development ability that other people have within that like supposed continual progress in search of profit. Like you're artificially slowing down progress
Yeah,
by
that's annoying.
doing things like that. And anything in the information age works like that because so much of it works off of a interchange of software and hardware that when people start to sneakily release it at a slower rate, but have just enough of the carrot to make you keep going after it, they're able to create way more profit without putting in as much effort.
Yeah, yeah, that's annoying. Like you mentioning that, they are pretty much slowing down progress of technology as far as what the consumers are getting, though. I think
Yeah,
I think as far as what because I think they're working on the concepts behind doors and stuff, maybe, um, but I think is that I mean that definitely applies to what the consumers are getting, though.
yeah.
Consumers are only able to see so much progress happening, you know.
I think though that third party companies that work with Apple are probably also not receiving that, and they are technically consumers because they have to license the like hardware from Apple to build it on and the operating system like that. They're probably not getting exposed to that hardware in a timely fashion either. They're probably getting it sooner than we are, but just in like seeing that there's times in which there's a big dearth of content and software for a new operating system seems to indicate that some companies are definitely not being allowed to look behind the door. Obviously, people like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and things like that kind of get a peek because those apps need to be sure that they can be ran on that phone and in a really efficient and good way. But the smaller apps that sometimes are really more beneficial for people in general in terms of like that they allow us to do like some nice math or science or creation thing on our phone uh, aren't getting that same like peak or glimpse that they need to keep everything up to date, which slows them down. Which I think the way software interacts with hardware is way more important than the hardware itself at this point because we have really good hardware out there in the world for us, and the software hasn't kind of caught up because in some cases the hardware just was easier to develop, and then in other cases they held back from showing these software developers that there was this hardware that was coming.
Hmm. Yeah, I never read up on that or thought about that. Um, so you're saying that the software uh, hasn't really caught up with hardware.
Yeah, like say the best example is like solid state drives, the really fucking fast RAM and all that. Nothing is utilizing that to my knowledge. I'm sure there are programs like, and actually now that I say that, like the Google Neural Network, which is the electronic brain that Google's building, do use that like superb amount of power that we now have access to in hardware. But a lot of things aren't made with that in mind. Solid state drives being a really big example. A lot of software doesn't really know how to tap into that in a effective way to make the biggest impact of the fact that now you have that solid piece of computing hardware where it used to be the moving parts. They're still running the program through it at kind of a sluggish rate because the software isn't utilizing that power that it has in the most effective way because some of that stuff, like I said, has just appeared solid state drives, the cold RAM sticks, things of that nature. But things like the iPhone and that have kind of been around because, I mean, computers were already doing it. Um,
Yeah, and I think, I'm thinking about that, and it's like it kind of almost connects to the fact that software isn't like really as tangible as hardware. Like like to access like software you use hardware to access software.
yeah,
So it's like kind of it's like it seems like it's almost like due to the fact that hardware comes came that hardware might have come first, before software.
yeah,
And like that's what you need to create the software. So the hardware is a tangible thing. So like that's kind of what that's what's created first. And so I think maybe there's like a delay there
yeah,
because of that.
yeah. I definitely know that there's a delay there because of that. But like the example of Apple has to license that technology and that platform for people to build software on. They don't necessarily license it for the technology that they've already developed for their phones until it comes out in the new iPhone. Because if they announce to these developers that they have this kind of technology, people might catch on to it or it might get leaked. And then everyone's going to be like, what the fuck, Apple? Why are you having a 20-year plan for technology that's you've already created or something like that? I'm sure a 20-year plan is an
Yeah.
exaggeration, but 4 or 5 year plan doesn't sound so much like an exaggeration, especially considering they can just slightly change that plan if they come up with any new innovations.
Yeah. Personally, I mean, I'm fine with with software not being caught up in my position just because I haven't caught up with software. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm still trying to learn software, and so I mean that's fine with me. But you're going to school for you said you were going to school at some point for computer science?
yeah, like trying to do that with marketing and I want to do like marketing slash PR for like the gaming industry and like social
Yeah,
media, especially, and like as emergent technology like AI and stuff like that starts appearing, and people are going to have
yeah,
to lobby for that because everyone's going to be like, fuck, it's Terminator, we're all going to die. Um, I definitely want to be engaged in that forefront
yeah,
as like the person side to it because a lot of people uh, like only think about the fact that there's the like technology and stuff like that, and they forget that Steve Jobs is a person because they've sort of like deified him into this god thing. But I mean, there's
yeah,
people below Steve Jobs who are having to talk to people and talk to software companies and hardware companies and get everyone on the same page so that we create this like beautiful new technology together, and then you just have to box it and icon it right and all that sort of stuff, and make sure it gets to the right distribution platforms and is advertised in the right way and to the right people and things like that. Yeah, there's like going to be a big, huge environment for marketing within technology, and that's really where I want
yeah.
to go.
Hello?
Yes,
Oh, okay. I thought I thought I cut off for a second.
nah, we're
Uh,
all good.
oh shit. Um, so yeah, uh, yeah, that's awesome, dude. Um, I don't know. I guess back to Steve Jobs because it's kind of funny thinking about it as a cult and everything. Um, Steve Jobs is like uh, he's definitely seen as a god. Um, but what was funny about being in that room like in at the event was that like this lady that didn't even know him was crying about him.
What?
Yeah, like she didn't even know him. She was just involved in the company.
And
Uh,
that,
just
yeah,
didn't know him personally. Didn't know really any. Didn't know anything about him personally. Just was within the company and was crying about him.
that's so weird.
I
That's
I mean, my mom, I saw her cry when when the Crocodile Dundee guy died.
yeah.
Like
But the
she was crying.
crocodile.
She was also drunk. That was another thing. She was also.
I
I
was
guess I
also gonna.
shouldn't say that.
I was also gonna say the crocodile Dundee thing was kind of like a horrific on video
Yeah,
event, but no, I mean, yeah, I like can understand that they're being touched by the loss of like genius and stuff, but then sometimes like how many years has it been now since he passed away? It's been a good few, at least two, I believe, right? Um, since Steve Jobs passed away. So it's kind of weird that someone who never had any contact with him and hearing that he died for probably like the 30th or 40th time just in this year would suddenly break out into tears. That, like, to me, almost
yeah.
like verifies the fact that they think of him as like this deity. But yeah, I mean, the dude was really smart. The dude was really, really smart. I think a lot of people have a false impression of him as this really nice dude from that Ashton Kutcher movie about him.
Yeah,
But because I mean, he was definitely
Ashton
not.
Kutcher.
Yeah, I can't believe that's who played him. But I mean, he was definitely an asshole. He definitely stole some things to start the company, and he
Yeah,
definitely was using drugs prolifically prior to it starting, and that was a big part of why he, at the point when he was at the top of Apple and like really coming up with all these conceptual ideas that they were developing and things like that. That I mean, he, in his own words, has to do with the drug things. And I think if people hear that narrative about Steve Jobs, they either don't want to believe it, they want to believe that it's like some sort of weird propaganda that some hippies made up, or they're like, nah, Steve Jobs is like this really great person. There's no way he could have been like any of these three things. He couldn't have been an asshole. He couldn't have been doing all these drugs. He couldn't have been stealing stuff.
yeah.
But I mean, he was as complicated as any other person. I think him just being this technological magus, though, is kind of a fiction story that some people tell themselves.
He definitely made himself look like a god, like in Roman days.
Yeah, he did do like some weird stuff with his dressing with the really like priest robes and all those iconic photographs of him, stuff like that. Like even before he died, it was kind of like he was definitely a face for sure. Like, and I don't know how many times I actually heard him speak in like interviews and stuff. I know he did a good few, but it wasn't like those were super publicized. That image though, that like solidified the image of Apple being this really strong, powerful organization, definitely got circulated a whole bunch.
God with glasses.
Yeah, God with glasses. Um, yeah. Well, God might have glasses. I don't know, but I think God with glasses pretty much sums it up. We
Well, I
both.
mean, like what, okay, so I guess I guess that goes off into the whole religion thing. I mean God, what is God even a he? If like
Yeah.
that's the whole thing about it. It kind of it's annoyed me that I've heard he used so many times, but
Yeah.
I don't even go to like saying like, oh well, God could be a she. No, I just like God, you know, we have, it's like we almost have to like associate a human form to God to understand like that concept or whatever, and what it's just
Yeah.
such a mystery.
And that like always has been something I've wondered about with the Islamic culture, and they do the big giant paisley designs and stuff because they're not allowed to display the image of God. But I wonder if that's like a mistranslation when it's being told to us, and that they are attempting to display like the image of God. And I know that like this theory is sort of probably unsubstantiated on my part, but they're trying to display the image of God, which is like some massive thing of light or energy or this just process of moving parts. Because I mean, Paisley designs sort of look like a giant, like unbelievably complex natural machine. Like I mean, a Paisley design may as well be what your cells are going on if you injected some like isopropyl dye in there, isopropyl
Yeah.
alcohol. I don't mean that, but some kind of dye in there, and watched it under an electron microscope and all your cells moving. It would be kind of like a Paisley design. I wonder if they're trying to depict it, and we've sort of just got this idea that they can't depict the form of God because if they couldn't depict the form of God, that means it's a really comprehensible thing. But if it's they're incapable of doing it, and they're trying and they're producing this really beautiful and like visionary artwork, and it still isn't even reaching up nearly to the level of it, and they've been doing it for 10 or fives of thousands of years. um
Yeah.
and it still isn't there. That to me is a God that is a lot more like impressive, because I think if we can even understand like an aspect of God with the limited amount of mental power that that takes, the idea that God is unknowable or anything like that seems like a stretch if we can comprehend his form.
So you're saying that that was like that those mosaics or whatever they did, that was like how they were illustrating.
That is what they're illustrating in place of an illustration of God. And it is circulated on the internet a whole lot that that's because they're not within their religious beliefs allowed to depict the image of God, but they're doing those mosaics in place of it, which means that it isn't something like as simple as a human man. I don't think. I think to them
Yeah,
it's a lot more complex, because they're
yeah,
definitely
that's
trying to depict something that's similar to it, because otherwise they could just depict like if they're allowed to do depictions of something that is holy, they could depict like a man or like a specific monk or something like that, um, or just any kind of nature thing. But they're picking a very specific, very psychedelic, very uh, visionary, and like the Alex Gray sense and things like that, piece of artwork for a placeholder for God. So God is something more than that, even, but that being like a representation seems to indicate that he's not as simple or comprehensible as we think, because even a Paisley design, you could spend much more time like examining than you could the form of a human man that's got a white beard and white hair.
yeah, that's definitely that brings a lot more mystery to it, and I agree more with like a mosaic than than like a statue or something of Mr. Beardman
Yeah.
sitting in the chair. You know, I agree with the mosaic more because it then it's more of a symbol, like it's more of a symbol of mystery, and it kind of you know shows that we don't know
Yeah. And
what
there's a whole
what
lot more room for interpretation and like internalization with the mosaic. Like you are able to form much greater like thoughts based on that than you are of a representation of a man that you are told is God. Like I mean, there you still can associate numerous infinite things with that, but the amount of things that you can associate with something that is so abstract that it almost seems like inhuman, that's just astounding.
when I was in Morocco, I saw uh, at some point it was last summer. I saw a whole lot of mosaics around the place. So that was really interesting. They just had well, and they that's the it was a really it was a culture shock because it was like a Muslim um, country, you know.
Yeah.
So so there was like everybody was Muslim. It seemed everybody had a robe on, um, and whatever else they wear, whatever it's all called. I forgot the names for it. Um, but like, so they're everybody's walking around wearing those, um, all the clothing, all the traditional clothing. But but yeah, I saw all those mosaics around the like the older part of the town or the city,
Okay.
and yeah, that was definitely interesting. There was really no reason to bring that up, but that was I just remember seeing those in person
Yeah, no,
in another in Africa.
yeah,
And it was
no,
just like I didn't know what the hell like it was all about. I was just like just kind of like but it was cool. Like it was yeah, it was definitely interesting to see that these people like had all these mosaics around. I went into an art gallery at some point, and that was really weird because the guy, the distributor or whatever
Wait,
in the store.
was the art gallery in Morocco?
Yeah, it was in Morocco. It was a sell. It was like a art gallery where they were selling all the paintings,
Oh, nice.
and you would walk around anywhere and everybody would be heckling you about like buying anything, like selling some, I don't know, like knockoff bag or something.
Yeah. So
But
what was the art gallery like?
this guy was trying to sell some Moroccan dude's paintings, and it was actually kind of cool. But this guy was it was like charcoal on just like a shitty piece of paper. And this
Like
guy this guy was like selling it for like 200 or something, or like 500 or some crazy
in
like
Moroccan or
price.
in US? Like the equivalent
I
of
don't know.
US?
I think it was a lot in US dollars that he was selling it for.
Okay.
Like, and but it was in shit, and I honestly forgot the name of the currency. It might have been dinars. Um, but it was like, but the paintings were cool though, or the charcoals or whatever, because it was like of these weird looking faces. Um, and it always that's always more interesting to me than um like a painting of a vase of flowers is like something um that isn't pleasant.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people really when they think of art, they just think of these like very beautiful things. And I mean, there's some people that like are aware of like grotesque artwork and things of that nature. But if something is solely beautiful or like solely very simple and is easily associated with it's pleasing to the eye or pleasing to the ear or pleasing to the mind, you're not really expanding out too much with that one. You're not addressing necessarily why you like it or anything like that, unless you're being prompted to. Because, I mean, if you like something, you just like something. There usually isn't any like moral guilt or anything like that associated with liking something unless it's something that you've been told is wrong to like. Um, but when you get into like the grotesque or the challenging or the dark and the like just ugly pieces of music and art and film and books, and then you are like, well, I don't fucking like how this is making me feel. And then you have to think about why isn't it making me like how I feel and
Yeah,
things like that. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that like definitely it's healthy to have a mixture of the two, but I think that the ones that are really pushing the boundaries are the ones that you look at and you're like, this is awful in the sense that it like
yeah,
horrifies me or it upsets me or it just makes me angry. It makes me want to fucking tear it apart and throw it out because I can't even conceptualize why it's making me feel these things like this way. I think that that is like a big thing. And then not sadness and like guilt and emotions like that also definitely not just the more warm, powerful emotions. Some of the weaker,
yeah,
like worn down emotions as well definitely are important. But that very basic bliss, because bliss kind of has a non-secular meaning, or I mean a secular meaning. I like just general happiness or contentment that you get from art. That kind of seems like it's not really pushing it. It's more of a way to make you reaffirmed in where you are and make you feel good. And hopefully that encourages you to take on some challenges and things like that, or just feel good. But yeah, no, I think that people discount how important things that they don't enjoy in terms of art are.
yeah. I think grotesque art, or not even grotesque art, just really abstract art, kind of, it really, if you can wrap your mind around that, like you can understand more. Like you can understand more perspectives of different people, and you can understand more things just because you're able to understand, like at least try to interpret why someone like Kandinsky or whoever like splattered a bunch of paint all over a canvas, and like it just seems like you just splattered a bunch of paint on a canvas, you know. But if
Yeah.
you but if you can kind of think about that and understand why he might have done that, or like try to interpret it, then like I feel like your brain is willing to expand to wanting to interpret other things that are hard to interpret also.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that statement. The the whole expansion of the mind definitely occurs from experiencing things, and especially from experiencing things that are challenging. Like, I mean, you know that I've gotten really into reading about enlightenment and transcendentalism, and the like reoccurring theme that I'm getting to right now in my studies of that sort of stuff is that you have to challenge yourself. You have to go outside of boundaries. Otherwise, you won't open up to like the greater experiences that are like present for us. You're just gonna be where you're at, and you're always gonna wonder why it feels like there's more, and it's because you're not experiencing the more, because you're not taking on that challenge, which is part of the
Yeah,
more.
yeah. There's always something more, and it's like, and it just seems like it's infinite.
Yeah,
Um, and why not just keep going, you know? But
yeah,
then things, you know, events happen, and they'll kind of set you behind. Um, but then you just kind of try to get back to it.
yeah. And I think that sort of has looped us back to where we started with persistency and continuing on, which
Yeah,
I would say is probably the major theme of this whole thing is that you got to be persistent. You got to work
yeah,
for your goals, whatever they may be. If you really want something, then you're going to have to work for it, and you have to understand that you have to work for it until you get it. And working for it doesn't necessarily mean hitting your head against the wall. You have to strategize about it and stuff like that. But moving forward and getting up from when you've gotten back and continuing to go forward is definitely like a key to growing and doing bigger things.
one way it was described to me at some point is like, as far as persistency goes, is sometimes like you wake up in the morning, and you know, you kind of, your brain kind of like, it restarts or something, you know, and suddenly it's a new day, and you start questioning what you were doing yesterday. And like, so you have to bring yourself, you almost have to like every morning bring yourself back to why you're pursuing what you're pursuing. You have to just like every morning decide, I'm gonna, you know, go for it today again. I'm gonna keep going for it, you know, every day. And you can't like wake up one morning and decide, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna quit.
Well, you can, but then you fucking quit it.
Yeah, then you quit, and you know, it's just like, then you just wasted all that time. And like, if I were to stop now as far as being an artist, um, and just being an artist in general, maybe I spent some time as a kid drawing or whatever. Maybe I spent some time filming. Maybe I spent some time, you know, trying to make music. But it's, I mean, it's all pretty much like music and film. I uh, I I really want to figure out, you know, a way to just kind of pursue both, because I know there are like musician actors, but there are also musician
the yeah,
directors and stuff.
you know Shane Carruth, right? The micro budget film guy who did Primer and Upstream Color.
No, actually,
Okay, he basically has filmed, I think, three movies. The third movie might be out now, Uncharted Waters or whatever it's called. He said that he was going to film movies, I guess, on a $5,000 budget. That was like the maximum he would ever spend on a film. And so he just buys one or two sets of Red One cameras from a university that are getting rid of them, and that's
Yeah.
his budget. And then he goes off to film the movies with whatever he had left of that. And they're all these really challenging sci-fi movies. I don't know if Uncharted Waters is going to be like that. I know it's about people selling fake maps for trade routes, which already doesn't make sense to me, but I don't know if it's got the like sci-fi element to it.
What's the guy's name again?
Shane Carruth.
Shane Carruth.
I'll link you him or the trailers to some of them after we're done.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they're these really challenging, complex movies. Primer especially is just a really uncomfortable one. It's about time travel, and it really gets into how that could fuck you up like psychologically. Um,
Yeah.
but he acts in them, he directs them, he writes them, and all that, and then he also produces the scores and stuff for it. So he very like directly brings those two like elements together, and I think you would enjoy like looking into them. But yeah, there's definitely people that combine them either as separate things or they somehow in Shane Carruth, and I know there has to be other directors and producers that have brought music over. RZA, when he did The Man with the Iron Fist, did the same thing. I guess he brought over a soundtrack that he uh, had curated and created for a movie. So yeah, there's definitely people that bring over both, and then there's definitely people that do it separately as two very successful careers. So I'm sure you can figure out a way to do it.
Yeah. As far as video goes, as far as film goes, um, I never really really was able to finish like a 100-page script or anything. So I kind of my mind focused more on the visuals, and I kind of just I would film and I would put clips together. At a certain point where I just kind of said, "Screw it," I'm just gonna just start making films and not have to worry about the script. And so that's kind of where it transpired. Just became like a music video thing.
Yeah.
Music. I started following after the pursuit of just being able to make uh, a really for what I have available to me, being able to make like a really decent looking music video. Um, and I made like that one for Geneva Bedlam. That's kind of like that. That's the highest budget I've been on so far. It was like, it wasn't even my money; it was his money. It was like $200,
Yeah.
and he spent it on a fog machine,
Okay.
and it was like rentals. He spent it on a fog machine and a strobe machine that was music activated.
Okay.
And that's where that whole strobe effect comes from in the video.
It's
But
fun. Okay.
the way the camera, the settings were, it really created a weird effect where the light would only show up in specific parts of the screen at a
Yeah.
time, and it just kept doing this weird like top to bottom sort of like effect with the flashing light.
Yeah. The like
Uh,
I know what you're talking about. I sort of like when you turn old TVs on and it did the thing, and I've seen the
yeah,
video.
like static.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what was in that really like it was so convenient because that's what we were going for. We were going for like a static, like a TV static sort of feel to it, and the whole idea behind it was that it was kind of um, it was going along with the whole like Clockwork Orange feeling with like the the leader and his droogs or whatever, like
Yeah.
Geneva Bedlam and the band members, and but it was more of like what he was going for was more of like a cyberpunk feeling. I think we've talked about this. I mean, it's like back in like we were really interested in like the cyberpunk theme in high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
That really caught my attention. The movie that you played on Netflix at some point, Enter the Void.
Yeah, that
That was really like I didn't watch the whole thing just because it was so like I just fell asleep at some
Yeah,
point.
it's so long. I think to this day, like there are people I know that have said that they've watched that all the way through. The only person that I believe, other than me, that has seen it all the way through is Paige because he stayed up all night at night and watched it like glued, and he was like, "What the fuck did you make me watch?" And like at the time, like that to me wasn't like a profound thing. I mean, it was a profound thing, but it wasn't like something that was just going to soul destroy me because I had already wanted to become interested in psychedelics and things of that nature. And I was
Yeah,
very like okay with this idea that life is kind of dirty and grimy and things like that. But
yeah,
someone who wasn't a Catholic upbringing and had a pretty like stable, nice at home life, yeah, that probably was too much fucking shit at our like early high school age.
that's a weird film,
Yeah, I mean it's
but
so weird.
I really liked cause it was like the whole thing was basically the concept of like of I guess out of body.
Yeah, it's very directly based on like the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It really follows that journey through the 40 bardos pretty well, but it is like an out of body experience because
Yeah,
I've recently been reading that people who want to be able to perform that rite that leads the soul through the 40 bardos spend 40 days in like a sensory deprivation thing up in the Tibetan or Nepal mountains in a cave, and they're just in this blacked out thing with maybe a few other people, maybe by themselves, for 40 days. And they go through all of it, like they engage their mind to go through all of that. And there's a book that I want to pick up off of Amazon that Timothy Leary wrote, and he tells you how to take some acid and then go through the 40 bardos that way in a blacked out room so that you are
yeah,
ready for it. But yeah, that whole concept of that out of body experience and that astral projection mirrored with that neo cyberpunk feel that was going
yeah.
on.
That was cool. That was really cool how the director combined both of those elements.
Yeah, definitely
It tried
cyber.
like he made like what was kind of what some people would perceive as like a spiritual thing. He made it like a weird like I don't know, like purgatory kind of
Yeah,
feel. Like
yeah, he definitely did. That and the whole concept of the 40 bardos is really like coinciding with purgatory. It is a journey that you like figure your way through, and you either end up lower at the end of all of it, or you end up higher, and then eventually you come to face the 40 bardos again. Is my understanding of it until you've gotten to the very top, and then you never have to go through the 40 bardos again. But yeah, that combination of like spirituality and technology is something that I really am like interested in. I don't know, like you've seen that I've been doing those pixel arts and trying to like do like vaguely spiritual things. I definitely want to like start get because I've been experimenting with the idea of like the techno magus and things of that nature, like these really like cybernetic or futuristic spiritual images that definitely like associate those two, AI and virtual reality, with like spiritual concepts. And
yeah,
with that pixel thing, people are immediately going to get this is a really artificial thing associated with these images and these concepts that we are mentally ingrained with, and that no matter what point we get to in the existence of human culture, we're always going to have that spirituality. And right now, we have this technology that some people really associate with spirituality, coming back to Steve Jobs being a
oh
god.
yeah, yeah, Mr. God with glasses. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he definitely in like I don't know those people. I mean, any person that's in that position, like you said, they're just normal people, you know.
yeah,
And it is weird that certain people are treated like gods, you know. But it makes me wonder, you know. I wonder how that feels, and so
yeah,
I want to like So I kind of, I kind of want to experience that
Yeah,
just to be able to have that experience. Like people are, a lot of Christian people like settle for like a little job or whatever, and like and I've noticed that like people, maybe there's like artists that were really going for something, and then they, something didn't go right, and they just kind of like decided, oh well, I guess I'll just, go back and do that little job. um and I kind of forgot I kind of forgot where I was going off to, but I'm trying to remember where I was going off to.
you're talking
Oh,
about how.
they're like they didn't want to, they like limited themselves.
Yeah,
Christianity, like you don't have to let it limit you, but a lot of people let it limit them when they're in that like that sort of
I
mindset,
I
and
think.
they like they don't want to experience like a high position of power because it's like it feels unholy. But really, to me, like I just wanted to experience it and be able to like give people that knowledge.
Yeah, I think with Christianity, why that is such an issue is because Catholicism, especially, has those, like, you talk to a bishop who talks to someone who talks to the Pope, who talks to God for you. Like, there are barriers that are constructed, and you're told more or less that you can't progress along these like degrees of understanding of God as a lay person, and so you are very established in that you uh, don't have a direct communication with the source, which is what we'll just refer to God for the second, of
Yeah,
like attainment and enlightenment and like an experience of reality. And I think for people, and this is sort of off tangent, but I think for a lot of people that we are friends with, the and I honestly was for a very long time, there was no desire to connect with spirituality or anything like that. The whole thing seemed like it was a constructed concept to trick people from being engaged in real life to me. And I know it does to a lot of people still that we know. Um, and
yeah,
even after psychedelics, I still was kind of that opinion, but there were experiences that continuously happened, and I was like, well, even in my idea of that there is no like explanation for anything other than these very mathematical formulas and stuff, that means that there is, even if I was to take that to the extreme, that means that I could follow a mathematical formula and figure out whatever I wanted to. And I was like, and if I could follow a mathematical formula and figure it out that way, then I can figure it out by doing and having experiences of just engaging really fully in life. And I found that it was a lot easier to fully engage in real life when I conceptualized that there was a source of like creative energy, even if it is like an internal deity thing that you connect with
yeah,
and that you just put focus on to develop focus so that you have focus for all other things. And I think a lot of people who we know who are still atheists, like on a personal level, really still use the atheism as the same crutch that like Christians use Christianity as, that there is no point because they're just going to die anyways. And so they can
yeah,
settle because they're doing and having the best time that they can, quote unquote, not really striving or struggling, because why would you strive and struggle if you just end up dead in the ground anyways and people will eventually forget you?
yeah, yeah. A lot of people that are successful, they created their own purpose. Like in a sense, were spiritual because they had a purpose. Like they created their own purpose.
Yeah. I
Um,
I definitely agree with that, and I think that once again like gets to persistency thing. Like a devout person of their own religion has to be very persistent about really engaging in that religion, even if it's like you decide that you want to compete in the like Olympics for the sprint. If you really want to do that, you got to be very religious about it. And like that is now more and more how I'm defining spirituality and like the psychedelic world and magic and whatever term you want to use is that it's that like indomitable effort that one part of your brain puts on the other to like contort that will to that purpose that you've decided that you really want to do and that really fulfills you and to just do every action in severance to that like as a tribute be, both figuratively because it is like this is a sacrifice I'm making so that I can do this better and literally because you're having to work and give up that time to make that occur.
Yeah, dog.
Yeah. Um, so I think we've pretty much run the gamut of everything, and I know we could talk for like multiple more hours,
Yeah,
but
I mean, I could talk throughout the whole night, dude,
yeah,
because well, I mean, I don't know, it's easy.
yeah, it definitely is, and oh, I definitely want to have you back on here, but we're gonna cut it just to have it at like a nice digestible length, not burn everyone's phone batteries up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are there any last things that you want to say? And then, well, say any last points that you want to say about anything at all. It could be fucking that dogs are bitches if you wanted to.
Dogs are bitches. Uh, that's all I have to say.
Uh,
No, I mean, I didn't really, I guess I didn't really finish up with, when I was, because I kind of stopped at like wanting to be a filmmaker. You were
yeah,
kind of asking me, I guess, like, like, I'm trying to remember the question exactly, but it was like how I, like, connect the two or
oh,
whatever.
connected music with
Yeah.
film. Yeah, well, we can definitely go into the music side if you want to go into that.
I could probably try to go, yeah, I could probably try to finish it off with saying that, like, I was into film. I was doing, I started doing Legomations after I did this like crappy video.
Yeah,
And that's when I was still trying to work with dialogue. And at some point, I did a music video with my brother, and it was like a weird witchcraft themed music video. And my brother, where I get the music influence from, honestly, is from my brother, because he grew up with a guitar in his hand, and he would record, like acoustic songs,
yeah,
and he did a lot of interesting stuff, back in high school, recording wise. Uh, the last project that he really put a lot of energy into before him and I started working together in recent times it was an album called, Written in a Toilet Stall.
no,
And it was like just a really out there acoustic album
yeah,
that he was trying to sell it, but he just couldn't. Um, he didn't, he didn't have the marketing side down as far as that. So Corbin kind of, he needed sort of a manager or something. He needed someone to help him out, but Panama City doesn't really have much to offer. Um, I don't know. Panama City didn't really have much to offer as far as management, because it was just so far away from the entertainment industry,
yeah,
the main center of it.
yeah,
Um, but so, where did I stopped at, the Legomations, I guess. So I was doing Legomations. I was still trying to do dialogue. Then I went on to, um, like, trying to do like animations with, like, animation software. But then at a certain point, I just decided that I had to kind of like start actually filming, like
yeah,
start actually trying to like set up, shots.
yeah.
And so like that's when I started pressing record, like was when, oh, and I was talking about the music videos. I started making music videos with my brother,
Yeah.
and for whatever music he was doing at the time, and I was like, that's kind of where the whole music video thing started. And I started in band when I was in middle school,
Uh-huh.
and I just kind of continued it throughout. So it was like basically I was in band and I was trying to produce films as well.
Yeah.
And there weren't enough film classes, and so that was one thing that was annoying about being at Arnold High School. It's just the fact that at the time that I got there, they didn't really have that film teacher that they had before,
Yeah.
and they just didn't have any film classes. Period.
Yeah.
Miss McNulty was trying to do it, but she was just like, I don't know. I didn't. I don't think I found myself ever really completely being able to like Miss McNulty as a person.
Yeah. And she ended up never doing the film thing. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she kind of just like gave up on it a little bit. Got someone else in charge, who wasn't really, who I don't. I'm not sure if she knew what she was doing either. Um, but you know, that's kind of where I was at with the film, with film and in being in high school, is that there weren't any film classes or anything. So I wasn't getting the technique, but I was trying to teach myself technique.
yeah.
But I was also trying to like, with film, trying to pursue it at a young age. Like your mind will sometimes get wrapped around the equipment, like
Yeah.
the cameras, the tripods, the just anything, just like lighting equipment and just like stuff like that. And like my mind was getting wrapped around equipment and not around the content itself at a certain point.
Yeah.
And that's when I lost focus in the art and more so the technical aspect.
Uh-huh.
But I still almost like like barely learned anything technical. I just kind of was like focusing on learning, on trying to like get equipment to make myself seem like I was better at film,
I see.
you know.
Yeah.
So it was like, so at a certain point I didn't give up on film. I just kind of kept continuing in a very slow way. And I mean, I've just kind of like, just very very slow. It really slowed down. And my sophomore year is when um, I started messing around with Ableton.
Yeah.
Or not my sophomore year, sorry, my junior year, towards the end of my junior year during indoor.
Okay.
And that's when I was introduced to the whole like the just like all the different kinds of DAWs. Before
Yeah.
that, like I was um, like hanging out with Brent and kind of like looking at him work with like FL Studio.
Yeah.
Um, that was like that kind of stuck in my mind at like an early point in um, middle school, when he kind of like, when Brent was kind of just messing around with it. That was
Okay.
in middle school. He was just kind of like fucking around with FL Studio, just like doing a bunch of random stuff. Um, but yeah, like some, I don't know, some like silly techno song or something.
Yeah.
We would like try to. I would sit there with him, acting like I was trying to like produce with him.
Yeah.
At a certain point, and we were trying to like create the first dubstep song.
Uh-huh.
We were trying to create like I was like acting like, I don't know, I was like helping him, kind of. I was giving him my input, but like we were basically sitting there, and that was like the first. It was like, it was called. I'm trying to remember what it was called. I don't know, but it was like the first dubstep song that I'm pretty sure Brent had produced,
Oh.
had attempted to produce, and it was pretty funny. It was like, I don't know, it was funny. Um, but yeah, that kind of stuck in my mind at an early point, like just the whole working with electronic music, and then And then Bailey Boyd, who I told you about at some point, he was
Yeah.
really interested in electronic music. He just kind of like told me about Ableton and how it was like pretty, it was a good workstation. And I just kind of like I started collaborating with Bailey a little bit, but I was also doing my own projects too, just messing around with the program by myself. And that's kind of how it all started. It just kind of all started just as a stream of things. There wasn't, but the connection I made to music though was that like was pretty much just being around music
Yeah.
that time at the same time that I was
This
around film.
film. Okay. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. And I think that like once again just connects that point that all experiences that we experience like influence us. So yeah, that's really cool. How would you want people to go look for your stuff who have heard this video who are not, or heard this podcast and are not familiar with you? You want your SoundCloud posted, your YouTube, or is there a Twitter that you want people to start following, or your Tumblr would you prefer? Or do you want all of that up there?
Uh, um, yeah, I do have a SoundCloud.
Yeah.
That's where I will post a new song.
Okay.
Um, every time I decide it's worthy to post on there. I there's an EP I was working on over the year, and my hard drive failed.
Oh shit.
So that's one thing that I've been trying to just I don't know. I've been just trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean, not really figure it out. I'm just trying to. It's you have to spend like $700 to retrieve that information
Yeah.
at the least,
Yeah.
and so that's really difficult for me. Um, and so I was working on an EP. I was wanting to get it done, but then I had started the spring semester of school, and that really screws everything up.
Yeah.
Also, because I hadn't been to school in like a semester, so I was kind of fumbling a little bit. I don't know, as far as like trying to put everything, like just time management basically was my biggest issue.
Yeah.
But so I was working on an EP. I'm really wanting to try to get it done this summer.
Okay.
Um, just to have a whole like set of songs with vocals, with melodies, just kind of show people who I am.
And what you're about.
Okay, so I'll just cut straight to the point, I guess. With SoundCloud,
Okay.
currently it's I believe SoundCloud.com/Nork official.
All right. And
And
that'll be under the video.
yeah, Nork official is spelled Noark,
Okay.
and then official.
All right. And then your videos, do you have up? Do you want everyone to see that, or is that a little bit more private right now?
So okay, yeah, there are a couple links that I guess I was wanting to establish. Was just the SoundCloud one.
Okay.
The YouTube one has the music videos that I'll post when I make a new music video. Every time I make a new music video, and it's the channel is called Nork Films.
All right.
Nork is spelled the same way. It's Noark. And then so it's Nork Films. And the URL, I'm not sure. Usually when you look up Nork Films in YouTube, it'll just show right up.
Yeah.
But like I'll look up the URL real quick. But you can pretty much just like search up Nork Films and the channel will show up.
Yeah, and if it's not like a customized one, I'll definitely just have it under the podcast and attach to the podcast in the description.
Okay. Tumblr, I don't really give a shit about my Tumblr.
Okay.
But I do post stuff on it. But it's like, there's just not enough traffic flow as far as I just,
Okay.
I don't know.
Does your Twitter receive any more traffic flow? Would you prefer the traffic to be diverted to your Twitter or your Tumblr? Because
The
I'll give them one or I'll give them
what
both.
contains my content is just that YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and then the SoundCloud channel, and the other accounts
Yeah.
are just what I use to just try to just try to distribute that content a little further.
Okay.
Even though I don't really get that much traffic flow on those,
Okay.
it's just kind of just whoever I have following me, I'll do it just to get in the habit of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can the Twitter account is Nork official, I believe,
Okay.
and then um the Tumblr account is Nork also,
All right.
Nork official. Um, and I mean, if anybody wants to follow me, that would be nice.
Yeah, definitely some
But
people should hopefully
but
follow
usually,
you from this.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, people, it's definitely, that's one thing that's hard on a social networking site you're not used to, is trying to get used to it.
Yeah.
Some people are really good at it.
Yeah, some
Other
people
people
are like geniuses at it. And I'm
like,
like at times I can be good at it, and then at other times I'm like scratching my head and I'm like I don't understand why the like techniques that I know aren't making anything happen.
yeah. Well, I suck at it, and you can definitely tell because I'm just like, I don't give a shit. Just
Yeah.
like, yeah. I mean, I'm really at this stage, I'm really focused on the art,
Yeah.
but I mean, and that's kind of how it happens, I guess. Earlier is just really focused on the content itself, which it kind of creates sort of a situation where it feels like it looks like to other people like you're going nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because you don't have much attention brought
Yeah.
to whatever it is that you're doing, because you're focusing so much on the content.
Yeah, not
uh,
necessarily on pimping out that content.
yeah, like trying, yeah.
But yeah,
um,
hopefully this will get you at least one more subscriber, follower. It probably will get at least some people to go hit your videos and your songs once again, because they'll be like, shit, it's been a good minute since I've listened to Noah or watched something of Noah's, and they'll be like,
yeah,
I'm just gonna listen to it all. Because I mean that does happen from time to time. I always see people on there are mutuals for us on Facebook, and they'll post and they'll be like listening to Noah's thing, or they'll share your video when it comes out and stuff like that.
yeah,
So definitely just them being reminded that you have it gets a hit. And like with how the algorithms work and all that stuff, even them doing that like might help like one random person like show up, and then that could be the spark that like just blows it up. You never know. But yeah, thank you so much for being on. Definitely want to get you on again. This has
yeah.
been Gabriel Lee and Noah DeClercqe with Random Select. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.